Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right. And naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
By the time I hit my 50s, I'd learned a few things, like how family is precious. Work can always wait. And 99% of people over 50 already have the virus that causes shingles. Not everyone at risk will develop it, but I did. The painful, blistering rash disrupted my life for weeks. Don't learn about your shingles risk the hard way. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Ho, ho, ho!
Hello, and welcome to another new episode of Live Through That. I'm your host, Mike Hipple, and on this podcast, we dig a little deeper into the pivotal moments that shaped the lives of some of my favorite artists from the 80s and 90s. This week, we're doing something a little different. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of Christmas music. But, so as not to be a total Grinch, I do have a playlist of some Christmas songs that I actually like, and today we're going to share the stories about some of those songs as told by the singers and songwriters of said songs. Two of the songs that we'll be talking about, the Waitresses' Christmas Wrapping and No Doubt's version of the Vandals' song Oi to the World, are pretty much canon in the current-day landscape of Christmas songs. And I'd like to hopefully nominate a few new tracks to that list with the Eels' Christmas is Going to the Dogs, Allo Darling's Space Christmas, and the Primitives' You Trashed My Christmas. Let's kick things off with a story that blends punk rock, holiday spirit, and a little bit of creative chaos. We're talking about Joe Escalante, bassist, songwriter, and the founding member of the Vandals. Joe is the mind behind Oi to the World, the scrappy punk Christmas anthem that would later be picked up and reimagined by No Doubt, cementing its place as a modern-day holiday classic. But how did this unlikely seasonal staple come to life? It all started when Joe simply said yes to bandmate Warren Fitzgerald's idea to make a Christmas record.
Warren is kind of a Christmas freak. This is like 1996, and we were starting our own record label. And then he just said, let's do a Christmas album. And if anyone in the band says, hey, I have an idea, let's do something, I always say, yes, if you have an idea, anybody with an idea, we're going to do that idea and go all the way with it until we get to, there might be someone in our band that says, I'm not doing that, but I always say yes. So no one said no to that. And we were trying, and then, so we thought, well, this is a good record that we could have to put on our own label, because we were on Nitro, Dexter Holland's label. And he just thought, that's okay. You guys, even though we were signed to his label, he said, you can go ahead and put that out on your label. So it's nice of him. And then we just started, Warren started writing the songs feverishly in August of 1996. And then at some point he gets tapped out usually, and he goes, hey, I'm tapped out. Who else has got something? And then I wanted to have a song that was more of a Christmas miracle song, because his songs were, F Christmas, and it's just funny. And back then it was pretty original. Now it might be, low hanging fruit, but back then when we did it, it was pretty original. And I mean, a lot of us were lighthearted and stuff, but I thought, let's have one Christmas miracle and make it a little bit oi. And so I just came up with some stuff, and then he helped me finish it. Well, back then, you could, like, the punk rock community was pretty cohesive, and you kind of knew whoever. It's almost like you could almost get you could get a mailing list for everybody who's even remotely interested in punk rock. I mean, we didn't have that, but they were just there, and you kind of knew who they were. And so we knew if we put that out, a certain amount of people would buy it. And they did. And then we did a Christmas show with Blink-182 and Save Ferris at UCI, and we played all the songs. And I don't even think we played all the songs. Now we play all the songs. But we were just like, all right, we did it. And then all the stores started sending the records back because they're like, oh, this is a Christmas record. Let's clear the shelves and make room for regular music. And we were like, no. This is a punk rock record for everybody all year long. So what we did was we redid the artwork to fool the record stores. So it doesn't say Christmas on the record. It's only if you read the titles of the songs. So it says Oi to the World and has a picture of these two Oi guys on the front and a brick wall. So this is a record you would leave out there the whole year. And it worked. So now the record just stays in the stores or wherever. Well, not that there are stores, but yeah, now it's not a thing that they send back after Christmas.
What was one of Joe's favorite Christmas songs growing up?
Well, my favorite Christmas song is Sleigh Ride. That song I used to play in the orchestra when I was in junior high, and the annual Christmas concert, and I just love that song because it had a horse whinny in it, and then I got to play. So that was like first chair. I got to be the guy that would play the mute in the trumpet and go wah, and do the horse whinny. So that was definitely my favorite song.
How did it come about that No Doubt ended up recording his song?
Well, we were on tour with them, so they were at their peak, and they were asked to contribute a song on the very special Christmas album, which is this, album they do. The Kennedy family does it. So they're asked to be on this album, and it's the one with the Keith Haring drawing on the front, and it's like U2 and things like that. And they had to come up with a Christmas song, so they had to write one. They're supposed to write one on that, And most of these people that write these Christmas songs for that record, they're so awful, because they're kind of forced. Like, oh, I'm gonna write a song. Oh, hey, Christmas. What am I gonna write about? Christmas. All I want for Christmas is you, baby. Or actually, that one's not bad. Then they just describe Christmas and anticipation of getting presents, and they put it to music, and it sucks turds. So they were on the road. They were kind of too busy to write a Christmas song. So they knew we put a Christmas song out. And so they listened to it. And then they all voted, what song should we record off of this? Is there one? And then they recorded, they picked Oi to the World because it's the only one that has a more positive message and it's kind of adaptable to ska. So it was perfect. And then, it's Gwen Stefani. I can't picture Gwen Stefani singing any of the other songs on the record. So they were happy to have that one. And I was happy because it was the only one I wrote. So, immediately I think I'm going to get rich. I know how many records this album sells each year. 10 million. I'm just like, wow, I'm practically have my money spent. And then I get a call from Bobby Shriver, who is Eunice Kennedy's son, and Sergeant Shriver. He's the grandson of Bobby Kennedy, the assassinated one. So he calls me. And I got a Kennedy on the phone. I mean, my career's going great. If the Kennedys start calling you, you're just like, things are going great. So he calls me and we chat for a little bit. And he says, most of the bands, pretty much all the bands, donate their royalties back to the cause, to the Special Olympics. So they're already getting the money from the master side of the recordings because the band has donated that. But then he's got to call people and try to get them to donate the publishing. And okay, well, all those, I look at the roster, people are fabulously wealthy from their rock and roll careers. And then he's asking the relatively poor unknown punk band to donate their royalties too, which is really the first payday we would ever have in our lives. And it all goes to the Special Olympics. So what was I going to do? I just said, of course, Bobby, of course, we're going to donate those royalties to the Special Olympics kids. Yeah. And to be honest, I used to be a coach of a Special Olympics basketball team. So, and I was a special ed teacher for a while in the Long Beach High School, junior high district. So, I had a soft spot. I got to go to the Kennedys. They had a party, their Christmas party, got to meet Sergeant Shriver, the guy who ran for vice president with McGovern in 1972. And that's when I first was kind of conscious of what was going on in the world, and like McGovern and Shriver. I got to meet him. I take a picture with them. Rob Reiner, Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife, all these people, it was, and my wife, it was pretty special. So definitely, and then I stayed in touch with Bobby because whenever anyone wants to license it for a film or something, Bobby and I have to get together and decide on what the price would be. So anyway, pretty magical, and that was yeah, and it's been every year. I just can't believe we've been able to get this show together every year. Yeah, Warren ended up producing it, and I was thrilled with the way it turned out. I mean, just like thought it was perfect. And then they made a video, which was like, they didn't have to do that, but they did. So they liked the song well enough and thought they could have a hit out of it on their own, and they did have a hit. And I got gold records, and I did get paid. And we all got paid for like every time it appeared on a B-side or a collection or things like that. I get a check for that. So I don't want to make it all about money, but it was kind of funny that the biggest song of our lives, we donated all the royalties to a charity.
And how does Joe feel about it becoming a bona fide Christmas classic song now?
You go shopping in the mall and you hear it, and then nothing is more thrilling than hearing a song you wrote played right after George Michael's Christmas song in a mall, and you just really feel like, yeah, you're part of the canon, you're part of the vernacular, the zeitgeist, whatever you want to call it. And the biggest compliment was Bean from Kevin and Bean, the local K-Rock's morning show here in Los Angeles. That guy is a connoisseur of Christmas songs, and he has a website devoted to Christmas music, and he had one that told me he delineated the golden era of Christmas music. And when I met him at one of these K-Rock acoustic Christmas shows, he told me, and at the time I was a rival of his. I was the morning host on the station that they competed with most in Los Angeles, on Indie 103.1. And then when I got introduced to him, and he told me that Oi to the World was the best Christmas song written since the golden age of Christmas songs. From Bean, right there.
Up next, we're traveling a little farther than the North Pole. Actually, we're heading straight into orbit. We're talking about Space Christmas, the charming holiday tune from indie pop band Allo Darlin. For me, it's become one of those underground holiday gems that you want to return to year after year. Let's check in with singer and songwriter Elizabeth Morris about how the song came to be.
Yeah, you mentioned, Mike, that you wanted to talk about that, and it's so strange. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Space Christmas is a song, one of the very first songs that I wrote. Before Allo Darlin was a band, it was a song that I wrote. I decided to put out a little EP, a Christmas EP, which was just me playing by myself. I didn't have a band at all at this point. And I was just going to make CDRs that I would print myself, and then take it on a little tour of the UK, like very DIY. At the time, I was very into like the Moldy Peaches and Kimya Dawson, and it was all that kind of vibe. So I can't even really remember writing it. I remember I was at my parents' house in Australia, trying to put a little EP of songs together, and then I recorded it in London for the first time with my friend Mike, who went on to become the drummer in Allo Darlin. So it's a big mystery to me that Space Christmas is the most streamed Allo Darlin song on Spotify, and probably we have that in common with a lot of artists in that a really obscure or like unremarkable, in my opinion, song is the one that ends up somehow being picked up, and that's the one that people like you get to hear, and it's very flattering and funny and strange, but yeah, it's it's a mystery to me. My husband is also a musician, and he has a Christmas band, and their whole thing is for like Christmas music for people who hate Christmas music. And I'm sitting in the office and I can see the record right in front of me. This is their latest record. Yeah, I do. And the band is called Sun Turns, and they've released 3 albums: Christmas 1, Christmas 2, and Christmas 3. And they only play 1 gig a year, and that is a Christmas gig in Oslo. And that's it. Every year it's the same, and pretty much the same set list. And yeah, it's minimal on the Jingle Bells. It is. There's not a whole lot of Jingle Bells there. But it's been so long because I find Space Christmas so impossible to listen to.
I was interested in the spareness of the instrumentation of the song and how that song finally broke through.
I wish I could remember, but it's probably because I wasn't capable of playing anything else. So that's why I played that. I like to, at that point, it was very much the sort of classroom instruments set of, instruments that were available. But I think that on the other songs on that little EP, because there were 4 or 5 songs on it, and I think I made about, I can't remember, maybe like 100 copies of it. And you can find, it's on Discogs and things. It goes for, some money. But the whole thing is just very strange to me. I think the only reason people know about it is because it came up in some YouTube person put it on a playlist like 10 years ago. And then it kind of got into the algorithm somehow of Spotify alternative Christmas songs. But yeah, it is a genre, isn't it? Alternative Christmas songs for people who don't like Christmas songs.
If I could buy you anything I wanted this Christmas, I would get the Academy to give you an Oscar for your script, even though you haven't built a single set. I know it's my favorite movie yet. But I don't have any money and I won't have any soon. I could be like Mata Hari and seduce an oil tycoon. He would give me £1 billion in a big suitcase, and you and I could have our first Christmas in space.
I guess now is as good a time as any to head over to Whoville, where we talk to E from the band Eels about his distinctive entry in the modern holiday music landscape with his song, Christmas is Going to the Dogs.
Well, I'm proud to say that I have 3 Christmas songs in the catalog, and I think any artist worth their salt should have a minimum of 3. That's the second one of the 3, Christmas is Going to the Dogs, and that one was commissioned by Mr. Ron Howard, Opie from Andy Griffith, and Richie from Happy Days, I'm happy to say, for his movie The Grinch. And one of the thrills of my life was that he actually came to my house while we were recording it. Like, that's what a hands-on director he is. Maybe only once or twice have I ever had like a film's director want to be at the recording session, unless it's at like a scoring stage for the movie or something. But if it's like we're just doing a song for a scene in a movie, they don't usually show up at the studio. They just wait for you to send them what you did and then say if they like it or not. And he actually came in, which was super fun. And like, all I wanted to do was ask him questions about Don Knotts on Andy Griffith, and he was very nice, answered all my questions. It was a thrill. I don't know if I even asked him. I think whenever something like that happens, I'm just like, thank God it happened. I don't want to ruin this by asking why. Because they might go, yeah, good point. Why? What am I doing? Well, the first one was called Everything's Gonna Be Cool This Christmas. And the last one, which just came out a few years ago, I think might be my favorite, is called Christmas, Why You Gotta Do Me Like This.
I was curious about how his young son felt about his Christmas songs.
He has only recently shown any interest in my music when I think he found out from a friend at school who I think his parents tipped him off or something, or oh no, it was because of Shrek, I think. Well, so my son heard from his classmate that I did music for Shrek, and then he immediately got all excited. And when he came home that day, he said, do you do the song that goes, somebody once told me? And I said, no, that was a band called Smash Mouth. And he just looked crestfallen. And then that was it. He didn't have any more questions about my music. But there's still, you know, he's only 8. There's still time.
Now let's turn our attention to a Christmas song that swaps out glitter and cheer for something a bit more chaotic. We're talking about You Trash My Christmas by The Primitives, the indie pop outfit fronted by vocalist Tracy Tracy and guitarist Paul Quartz.
Well, Elephant Records, who we were putting stuff out with, were doing a compilation album, and they asked us to contribute a song, an original song. So we said yes, and then I sat down to write this Christmas song, and I had no idea, what approach to take or anything, because I don't normally sit down with the intention of writing a song. The ideas just happen, and then I start the work on the song. But to sit down trying to write something from scratch wasn't something I normally did. So I had absolutely no idea, and I think I must have visualized a load of smashed up Christmas stuff, and then I got the idea of using the idea of mistreated or neglected Christmas tree decorations as a sort of metaphor for emotional mistreatment and neglect, I guess. And once I had that kind of plot idea, then the rest of it just sort of came. Yeah, well, the idea was that the first verse would be kind of like bedroom punk, so a noisy guitar through a small amp with just a vocal. And then we'd go into a kind of wall of sound where the band comes in, and, it kind of just suddenly explodes, really. And we kind of carried that idea through to the video, didn't we, Tracy?
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, because at the start of the video, it's just Paul and I in kind of sort of monochrome sort of colour, and then it explodes, obviously, when it comes into the chorus. And we've got, Paul's kids, Tig's kids, smashing up lots of decorations and mayhem, really. And obviously we've got a Santa lying on the floor there who's a little bit inebriated, and he's been sort of kicked. He's getting beaten up, really, by the kids. So, but it's just this sort of what sort of going, like Paul said, sort of nice, sort of calm sort of thing, and then all of a sudden this great big surprise of the chorus, and works really well because you're not expecting it. Obviously, first time hearing it. And that's kind of got a Christmassy feel to it, I suppose. Yeah, with the bells coming in and stuff.
I was wondering what sorts of inspiration the band took when trying to come up with a Christmas song.
As I say, I had no idea which direction to take. But I think maybe I was thinking a little bit of like the Ramones one, and yeah, just that kind of going a bit punk with it, but having a bit of the girl group thing as well. Yeah, that was the idea. I think once I was rolling with it, it was going for the sort of punk with a bit of the old Christmas traditional stuff in there somewhere,
Yeah, I kind of thought, obviously Paul's the songwriter, but it's kind of like, how's that going to be done? Because it can just go so horribly wrong. It can be really cheesy and really crass. But I mean, the song that Paul has written is just, it's one of my favourites, obviously, a lot of people's favourites. And it's not what you expect, but it has the elements of the Primitives, obviously. It's still quite primitive-y.
And what are some of their favourite Christmas songs?
One of my favourites is a song by Bobby Goldsboro called Look Around You, It's Christmas Time. And that's a sort of, it's quite a cynical take, it's another one of those, but it's a very groovy little number. But the lyrics are all about how sort of rotten society is, and, people are not adhering to the original meaning and things. It's a good one, yeah.
Not so much a favourite Christmas song. I've got a Christmas album by the Phil Spector, A Gift for You, which I put on every year. That sort of gets me into the mood. I suppose my favourite one of that is the Crystals. So that kind of all-girl sort of sounding, wall of sound sort of stuff is. So I suppose that would be one of my favourites. Yeah.
Your love is a pretense. Now I see it clearly. I've got a box of evidence of how you feel about me. It's full of broken bells and things. You should have taken more care. it's a fairy without wings. This Christmas tree looks so bare. You trashed my Christmas. You broke my heart at Christmas.
And finally, let's dive into one of the most beloved and instantly recognizable alternative holiday song of the 1980s, Christmas Wrapping by the Waitresses. Released in 1981, Christmas Wrapping has become a holiday staple for anyone who prefers their festive music with a clever narrative and a bit of attitude. It's easily become one of my all-time favorites, and I'm pleased to have songwriter Chris Butler and Z Records label head Michael Zilka on to talk about how the song came to be. Let's start with Chris.
Our label head, Michael Zilka, came up with an idea. He said, hey, I'm going to ask all of our artists to write Christmas songs, and we shall make a Christmas album. Now, we were working our tails off. Our actual LP was in the can, but couldn't be released because Michael's label had lost its distribution. And we were working to plug I Know What Boys Like. So we kind of needed this like a hole in the head. Hopefully he would, abandon the idea, forget about it, and we would just carry on and wait for our record to come out in the following year. So here we are out on the road and, coming back at some point in August of 81, and Michael contacts us and says, I have booked you into Electric Ladyland. What? Yeah, to record the Christmas song. And oh man, okay.
In 1981, my bands and my record label were getting amazing press, but we were really not getting any sales.
That's Michael Zilka, label head for Z Records.
I needed to find some kind of commercial hook to sort of hopefully, gussy up sales, and so that Chris Blackwell would keep financing my label because I was distributed by Island, and in return he'd been financing me. But my debt was getting considerable. And it occurred to me that there had been Christmas albums in the past, notably Phil Spector's, and that they'd been really cool. So the thing about a Christmas album is you've got to record it in April and May. So not necessarily at a time when you're feeling particularly Christmassy. And also, in the case of my bands, they wouldn't necessarily be associated with Christmas that much because some of them were quite dark. And we had also just released a compilation called Mutant Disco, which had been a big success. And so I thought compilations were a good way of showing what we were doing and showcasing the label. So I asked all of my artists if they would do a Christmas song. And they all seemed puzzled by it, but at the same time, it's not like there was any reason not to do a Christmas song. And Christmas songs, it's always interesting to sort of, I think it's always interesting to write something on commission as opposed to, just sort of do it in a vacuum, because it focuses you in a way. So, each of them wrote a Christmas song, and Christmas Wrapping was Chris Butler's.
I had to cobble together something, and I worked at the time by kind of grunting into cassettes, then fight until I came up with something, and then try to expand it into a song. I had a couple riffs lying around. And I am very much at the time, I was very much a Scrooge, and Christmas was always a pain in the neck for me because of kind of my crappy family. And it just, I was always broke around Christmas time, and I had to buy presents for people that I didn't really care for. And so Christmas was kind of a downer. So I decided to write against my own a type and do something that was hopeful and upbeat, but also capture my exhaustion at the time. So along comes the idea of an O. Henry twist, and someone who just doesn't want to hear about it. This year, being 81, and just go to just celebrate in her own way, on her own, and literally throwing together lyrics, uh, stream of consciousness. And it is a cliche, but I did finish them in the taxi cab on the way over to the studio. Now, our band, were a bunch of pros, so we certainly did rehearse and come up with something. We also, even though it was a, we thought, a throwaway project, we were going to give it our all because we're pros. And at the rehearsal, I had a guitar part and a horn lick and the very beginnings of a bass line, just da 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 da, and kind of threw it at the band and said, do something with this, please. And they did. And we wound up at Electric Lady with a wonderful engineer producer, Mike Frondelli. And I think they gave us 3 days. So the first day was the backing track, second day vocals, and third day was mixing. There it is. We thought, okay, we've done our bit, and turned it in and went back out on the road, and promptly forgot about it. And that's also a cliche, but it's true. It was like, all right, we've done our bit for the label. Let's get back to business. That's how the song came about.
It fit well on the album. It really was more upbeat than a lot of the others. The song that closed the album, It's a Big Country, by David Sigerson, was also fairly upbeat, but some of the others weren't. I think what was great about Christmas Wrapping is that it wasn't cynical at all, and it wasn't dour. It was just upbeat, happy, a love story, everything a Christmas song should really be.
What was the initial reaction to the song?
I remember being in Rochester, New York at the end of November or maybe early December. And we were playing a show, and I called my girlfriend at the time and said, just checking in. And she said, man, you are all over the radio. And I thought, finally, all this humping of I Know What Boys Like has paid off. And she said, no, your Christmas song, that thing. Oh, Jesus. Well, we relearned it at sound check and then played it that night. And it stayed in our repertoire until we imploded. So it took us all by surprise. And this is not false humility. It takes me completely by surprise every year to have come up with something that was considered an okay tune, but I'm reluctant to use the word throwaway, but a side project, a bit of a non sequitur to what we were doing, to have that stick in the culture is pretty amazing and humbling, to be honest. It's, air quotes, classic. Wow. And if I had known that it was going to, have a long life, I would not have date stamped it. I said, no, most of 81 is along those lines, right? I would have, most of this year or something like that. But the lyric says 81. So maybe that's part of the nostalgic appeal. I'm not sure.
And why does Chris still think the song resonates with audiences?
Well, I think I've thought about this a lot because I'm not really sure, and I've asked other people, and I know that I'm not a Scrooge. I'm a Scrooge in recovery. All right, that song just sounds so great over a car radio when it's compressed and EQ'd by a radio station. It just roars, and it's hard not to feel excited or moved by it. But that doesn't answer the question of why it's stuck to the culture. I think one possible answer would be that people want to know that there's a force for good working in the background, and the song is all about missed connections, but towards the end the rap is the wrapping around WRAP of the story with the kind of O. Henry ending where try as you might, you can't connect, but some kind of force in the background, whether it's the Christmas spirit or whatever spiritual entity or thing you think works in your life, that it's there and it's working for you constantly, that you can't even screw it up, that something good is working in the background that will make everything turn out all right.
And that wraps up this week's special holiday episode. Huge thanks to everyone who took the time to talk to me about these tracks. They are holiday staples in my world, and I hope they've added a little extra sparkle to yours. And a quick reminder that you can also buy my book on 80s musicians and where they are today, 80s Redux, and its sequel, Live Through That, on 90s Artists, wherever you buy your books. They make great gifts. And if you like this show, please leave a review where you're listening. It always helps others find us. And of course, subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.
the thing that I've noticed is the things that have stuck were things that were written when I was under pressure or a hard deadline. Christmas wrapping was definitely under a hard deadline. Square Pegs was, we had literally 3 or 4 hours to come up with something. And while the band was kind of relaxing at the pool, I'm sweating away in my hotel room trying to come up with something in mid-afternoon because the TV producers had booked us into Motown West Studios at 7:00 that evening. So I think what seems to work for me is being under pressure. I can write under pressure. The songs that I labor over and that are a luxury or self-indulgent for myself or really pleasurable to write have never seemed to have the same impact as things that, like, the gun is to your head, first thought, best thought, you have to go with it, and it's done.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.